Hello and welcome to AI Future or Fiction. In today's episode, we delve into the unsettling shadow of the year 2026. Imagine a world where disasters are not born of human error, but of autonomous decisions made in milliseconds. According to global cybersecurity reports, we face an unprecedented crisis of accountability. It's a digital abyss where the speed of the machine surpasses our capacity to react. Who responds to a systemic collapse if there is no clear author? This gap in authority poses a terrifying question to us. Are we still the masters of the future or mere witnesses to an architecture we no longer understand? Time is running out while the system continues to learn. Without further delay, we begin. If you look for culprits in the digital world, you will soon realize that you are chasing ghosts. In traditional engineering, if a bridge falls, we know whom to point at. There is always a miscalculation or a defective material. But with autonomous artificial intelligence, the trail of blame vanishes into a fog of algorithms. Here is born what we call the accountability gap. It is that uncomfortable void where a machine makes a critical decision and no one can explain why. It's not that the system has failed in the technical sense. On the contrary, the system did exactly what it was supposed to: learn and execute. The problem is that the final result was not born from a direct human instruction. Imagine a health system deciding to deny vital treatment. It does so based on patterns that no doctor understands. To whom do you ask for explanations? The programmer will say that he did not write that specific rule. The executive will say that he only bought an efficient tool. Meanwhile, the patient is left alone before a sentence dictated by no one. This absence of a clear, responsible party generates deep anguish in our society. We are used to power having a face and a name. However, we now face processes that execute without a will behind them. It is a form of invisible authority that leaves us disarmed and vulnerable. Law and ethics fall short in the face of this new reality. Current laws are designed for humans who act with intention. But how do you judge a black box that lacks consciousness? Existing legal structures are not prepared for a world where the author of harm is not a person. Perhaps the greatest danger is not that machines disobey us. The real risk is that they obey us so well that we no longer recognize our intentions. Are we creating a world where power exists, but responsibility has died? The answer could be hidden in the very systems we can no longer control. To understand why we are losing control, you must look inside the machine. In old software, a programmer wrote clear rules. If the program failed, you could find the exact line of code that caused the error. It was like checking a car engine. You knew which part had broken and who had designed it. With deep learning models, that clarity has completely disappeared. We are facing what experts call the black box. These systems do not follow step-by-step instructions. Instead, they process information through millions of artificial connections. It is a mathematical labyrinth of a complexity that escapes human logic. Imagine trying to find an error in a network with 100 billion parameters. Each of those points influences the final result in almost infinite ways. There is no single point of failure that you can point your finger at. The system makes a tragic decision not because of a typo, but because of emergent behavior. These behaviors are the true mystery of the digital age. Artificial intelligence learns patterns that we cannot even perceive. Sometimes the machine finds a solution that seems logical to its algorithm. However, that result can be devastating for us. It is not a technical failure. It is an alien logic that we ourselves have fed. This is where the problem of authorship arises. If no one wrote the rule that caused the disaster, who is the author of the tragedy? Complexity ceases to be a technical characteristic to become a wall against justice. How can you defend yourself against a decision that no one can explain? We are building a reality based on foundations we do not understand. We have become spectators of an intelligence that moves away from our own way of reasoning. Perhaps the greatest enigma is not how to stop these machines. The true mystery is why we decided to entrust our destiny to something whose mind is totally alien to us. You find yourself facing a contradiction that defies all human logic. While artificial intelligence systems operate in microseconds, Our institutions function at the unhurried pace of past centuries. This is the paradox of early action. Imagine the machine detecting a signal of imminent collapse in the global financial system. It sees the fire even before the first spark ignites. However, for a human to make a decision, tangible and verifiable proof is needed. This is where the system definitively breaks down. In the digital world, waiting for evidence means waiting for the disaster to have already occurred. If an artificial intelligence warns about a risk, its logic is so complex that it cannot explain the reason to us immediately. For our bureaucratic structures, acting without a clear explanation seems like absolute recklessness. But in this new scenario, the true recklessness is waiting. We are applying analog handbrakes to an engine traveling at the speed of light. This delay is neither accidental nor a result of oversight. Institutions have built an architecture of delay designed to protect those in command. By demanding reports, meetings, and expert committees, those responsible gain time, but lose the opportunity to intervene. If nothing is done until the damage is evident, no one can be accused of having acted impulsively. Protocol thus becomes a paper shield. It is a way of saying that the correct steps were followed while the world around them crumbled. Now let us consider what happens when institutional caution becomes our greatest vulnerability. We have surrounded ourselves with safeguards that, instead of protecting us, paralyze us in the face of danger. While the algorithm shouts a silent warning on a screen, we seek the seal of approval from an office that does not understand the problem. The result is a tense silence where the machine knows what is coming and we simply wait for reality to catch up to us. Is it possible that our own need for control is what ultimately leaves us without any option for response? To see the cracks in the system, you don't need to look to the future. You just have to observe the smoke trail left by current financial markets. Years ago, the world witnessed the first major flash crash in modern history. In just a few moments, almost $1 trillion evaporated from screens. There were no news of war or sudden bank failures. Simply, high-frequency algorithms entered a frantic selling spiral that no one could stop. That day, the logic of machines completely surpassed our human capacity for reaction. Financial traders watched their monitors in genuine terror, witnessing a digital economic suicide. When the smoke cleared, authorities looked for someone responsible to apply the law. However, they found no person to point the finger at. It was a failure born from the interaction of thousands of autonomous codes. No one designed the disaster, but the disaster occurred before our eyes. This same shadow is now cast over the delicate world of medicine. You can visualize a patient receiving a clean diagnosis from a cutting-edge artificial intelligence. The system analyzes thousands of images and determines there is no anomaly to worry about. Months later, the error comes to light when it is already too late to intervene. The algorithm ignored a subtle pattern that a human doctor, perhaps, would have questioned purely by instinct. The real problem is not just the technical failure, but what happens afterwards in court. The hospital asserts that it only followed the recommendations of a certified technological tool. For their part, the developers claim that the system learned only from the data received. In the end, the victim is left alone facing a tragic verdict dictated by a black box. Responsibility dissolves into a labyrinth of legal and technical terms until it becomes totally invisible. We are witnessing the birth of a worrying architecture of institutional disclaiming of responsibility. Every time a machine makes a serious error, organizations blame the process and not the decision to implement it. This game of shadows is eroding trust in our most basic public services. If there is no one to answer for the damage, the system ceases to be human. We are becoming subjects of an authority that feels no remorse, nor assumes its own errors. What value does our security have if it depends on code that no one can judge? The evidence in finance and health are just the beginning of a deep social fracture. The real danger is not just that technology makes mistakes from time to time. The true risk is accepting a society where justice has been replaced by the silence of an algorithm. Facing the abyss of automated decisions, a concept emerges that could save us. It is called meaningful human control. It is not simply an off switch for emergencies. It is the guarantee that you understand and validate every step the machine takes. Without this understanding, our oversight is merely a useless facade. To achieve this real control, we need what are called audit trails. These are technical records that allow us to break down the algorithm's reasoning. Imagine being able to see the invisible threads that move the digital will. With these traces, disaster ceases to be an absolute mystery. It becomes a process that we can study and correct. The true change occurs when we stop performing digital autopsies after a failure. Responsibility must be a prerequisite for the launch of any system. No code should operate without demonstrating that a human can intervene successfully. It is a mandate that forces designers to prioritize our safety over pure efficiency. Designing for intervention means that the system must be transparent by nature. We cannot allow the algorithm to hide its motives under layers of mathematical complexity. Every critical point must have a gateway for human judgment. By integrating these controls, we stop being passive passengers of our own technology. This strategy seeks to return to us the agency we have been losing. By demanding transparency from the origin, we recover our capacity to decide over what affects us. The question is no longer whether the machine will make a mistake sooner or later. What is important is whether we have built a real emergency exit. Regaining control requires more than new laws or lines of code. It demands that we accept our responsibility as conscious architects of the future. Meaningful human control is the last bridge that connects us to digital sanity. If this bridge falls, the void that awaits us will be impossible to fill. However, a doubt remains that technical design cannot resolve. Will we have the necessary will to question a machine that seems to be perfect? Technology offers us a convenience that often clouds our judgment. Perhaps the greatest obstacle to regaining control is not the algorithm, but our own complacency. You arrive at a crossroads where the destiny of our species divides into three possible paths. So far, we have analyzed the cracks in the system. Now, we must decide what architecture we want to build upon them. Each path offers a distinct promise. However, all hide a shadow that we prefer to ignore. The first option is total automation. In this scenario, we surrender to the superiority of algorithmic calculation. We let machines manage energy, money, and health without human interference. It is a world of terrifying efficiency. Here, the concept of responsibility disappears because we accept that human error is the only real risk. The second path leads us to defensive regulation. Here, the focus is not technical but purely legal. We create a labyrinth of laws designed to always find a financial culprit. It doesn't matter if we understand the failure. It only matters to determine who will pay the bill. In this future, ethics become a simple calculation of risks and insurance premiums. Finally, the path of human-centric design emerges. It is the most ambitious proposal of all. It demands that artificial intelligence be transparent by legal mandate. Every decision must be auditable and comprehensible to any citizen. It is the desperate attempt to force the machine to speak our own moral and ethical language. However, you must ask yourself if these solutions are real or simple mirages. Is responsibility an achievable goal in a world governed by processes that surpass our biology? Perhaps we like to believe in these structures so as not to feel vulnerable. We need to think that we still have control of a ship that travels too fast. Perhaps the idea of justice is the last fiction left for us to protect. If a system is capable of learning and evolving on its own, can it truly be subject to our laws? At the end of the day, the code continues to execute while we debate in our offices. We are left with the doubt of whether we are designing a secure future or the prologue to our own irrelevance. We have reached the end of this journey through the architecture of our own obsolescence. The lesson is clear. Responsibility must be the mandatory foundation before any algorithm sees the light. Without that guarantee, the collapse of human trust will be total and definitive. I invite you to maintain a critical eye towards current advancements. The future is something that we can still shape with our decisions. If this analysis has made you reflect, subscribe to AI Future or Fiction. Together, we will continue exploring these digital enigmas. Thank you for joining us in this search for answers. The real question is no longer what the machine can do. What's truly important is knowing what you are willing to allow. Until the next installment.